Number 6, Chapter 5, The City of Light. After their meal, Nezumi placed a petri dish and a pair of tweezers in front of Shion. I extracted this out of your incision. Try opening it up. It is probably right in your field. My field? In the petri dish was something black and stringy, about 2 centimeters long. Shion plucked it up with the tweezers. The slimy black object dangled from them and looked half melted. Upon closer inspection, Shion could make out evidence of something filmy at the end of it. These are wings. Looks like. I have no idea. There is one other thing I pulled out too, Nezumi added. What do you have to say about this? It was another black lump. This one was hard and resembled a seed. There was a hole in it, as if something had eaten its way out. Pupa, I think, said Shion slowly. Pupa? Like what moths and butterflies make themselves into? Oh, wait. Butterflies make cocoons. Cocoons are the outer shells of pupae, yes, Shion explained. Embryo, larva, pupa, and imago. Most insects go through their development stages in this order. This one is probably some kind of bee. You can tell. There are signs of wings beginning to form. The membranous qualities, the fact that there are four of them, and more than anything, Shion swallowed. I saw it with my own eyes. A black bee flying out of Yamase-san's neck. And that bee and this black thing are the same thing? If I'm not mistaken, probably. This one couldn't complete its metamorphosis in the pupal stage. It managed to eat its way out of the shell but couldn't become a fully grown imago. It failed. Why? Why? He was right. Why was that? Why was the same bee that had hatched, undergone metamorphosis, and become an imago inside Yamase unable to break out of its pupal stage here? Was it a coincidence or? Shion shook his head. I don't know. All I know is that this is a parasitic organism and it feeds off humans. Nezumi stared unblinkingly at the petri dish. A parasite bee, he muttered. I thought bees only fed off flower nectar. Those are just one species of bee, like the honeybee. Most bees, or wasps in this case, are hunters and solitary by nature. And there are parasitic wasps too? Shion nodded. Nezumi's questions were simple and brief, and were easy to answer from Shion's knowledge. But none of the questions were off the mark. They tread lightly but accurately on the point of focus. With each question he answered, Shion felt a growing uneasiness, like he was being backed into a corner. He felt like he could unwittingly slip and let something horrific escape from his lips. But you can't be afraid, he told himself. He couldn't turn a blind eye and let things slip past him. He couldn't pretend that nothing had happened and refuse to inquire, to take action. He stood in the position of one who had experienced it. He had been host to the parasite, fought with it, and prevailed. And like a symbol of this battle, he bore the red serpent on this body. Yes, this was his imprint. Nezumi's face was peering into his. Shion turned his gaze steadily and spoke. There are said to be about 200,000 different species of parasitic wasps. Hymenoptera, such as bees and ants, are highly specialized insects, and there are still tens of thousands of species that are undocumented. This is particularly so for parasitic wasps, or so I've heard, which means we don't know what we're gonna get. We can't say what species for sure, but we can still predict. If we have any foundation for a basis of prediction, Shion answered. Why? You're the best foundation there is, said Nezumi with mock enthusiasm. So, how was it being host to a parasite wasp? Could you tell if it was a new species? You're really disagreeable sometimes. Did you know that? Shion replied irritably. Well, you piss me off all the time. We can't say what species for sure, he says. Don't mess around. Don't you have any sense of danger? These wasps are killing people. Most parasitic wasps do. What? Wasps that are classified as parasites are usually more parasitoid. To reach full growth, they only need to attach themselves to one prey, their host, and ultimately, without fail, they consume and kill it. Ultimately, without fail, they consume and kill the host. It sounded even more grotesque when put into words. Hosts? Like what kind? There are lots: moths, butterflies, ant larvae, fruits. A species of Ichneumonidae called Ricella approximator lays eggs in the larva of another species, Zyphidrida, and make its host. So wasp leeches off another wasp. Not only that, but another species of the same Ichneumonidae called Pseudorhiza alpestris lays eggs in the same Zyphidrida right after the Ricella, and its larvae eat both the larvae of the Ricella and the Zyphidrida. So, they kill each other even if they're from the same species. Wow, I thought only humans kill their own kind. So, hmm, are there parasite wasps that attach to humans as hosts? I've never heard of any, replied Shion. There are other organisms that are parasitic to humans: viruses, bacteria, ticks, fleas, and the like. I've heard once of a warblefly that laid eggs in a boy's head, and of one of them invading his brain, but that was an unusual case. I think Mm, I've never heard of any wasps doing that. The question is, Shion said thoughtfully, how was it able to lay eggs in a human body in the first place? How did it pierce the skin with its ovipositor without being noticed? You have no memory of it? No, I didn't feel any pain or itch. It never crossed my mind that I'd been stung by a wasp. So they can lay their eggs without their host noticing at all. Not only that, they also grew with astonishing speed, and when they do, they must excrete some sort of substance that rapidly accelerates aging in the host and inevitably leads them to death. Even the process of rigor mortis and dissipation gets sped up. And finally, as a full grown imago, the parasite wasp eats its way out of the body and escapes outside. There was a moment of silence. Shion and Nezumi looked at each other and exhaled at the same time. I'm surprised you lived through it. Yeah, I'm starting to get the cold sweats just thinking about it. There are too many things we don't know, said Nezumi. Where did this guy come from? What is it? Hey, Shion said suddenly. Have there been any similar incidents like that here? Nope. I did a little research because it was nagging me too. There were guys who got shot to death fighting, or people who got drunk and drowned in a ditch, but no one suddenly turned old and died. There's no media control or censorship here like number six, Nezumi added, so if anything out of the ordinary happens, it should spread like wildfire. Then, if it's happening in another block, suggested Shion, the southeastern blocks maybe? That environment is probably the most suited for a new species of insect to appear. Nezumi shook his head slowly. I can't imagine that happening. If it did, the city should close all the gates leading in, but they haven't shown any signs of doing that. Produce is still shipped in from the southeastern blocks as usual. The north block is the same. Then the wasp definitely must have come from number six. I can't believe it, Shion muttered to himself. Unbelievable. You're certainly right about that. Nezumi's fingers lightly tapped the petri dish. His shoulders shook slightly. Nezumi? Nezumi's head was bowed, and a quiet chuckle escaped his lips. It soon turned into howling laughter. It echoed in the underground room that overflowed with books. Nezumi collapsed on the bed, holding his stomach and laughing harder still. Shion lunged for a pitcher of water and emptied it on Nezumi's head. Hey, Nezumi sprang up. What the hell are you doing? Are you alright? Alright? I'm soaking wet here. I just. I thought you were undergoing a fit of hysteria or something, so I. What do I have to throw a hysteric fit for? Well, you started laughing randomly. I just thought. I only laughed because it was funny. Funny? What is? Nezmi shook his head violently. Shion's face was pelted with water droplets. It's hilarious, isn't it? Where did this thing originate? Number 6. There's a mysterious man eating wasp flying around in this utopian model city. The holy city, if you will. This is the city of the future, the epitome of modern science. And it's been eaten by bees. Hilarious. It's not something to laugh about. People are dying. Nezumi stood up. He walked over to Shion and drew up to him face to face. Nezumi was right, Shion thought. He was tall. He exceeded Shion in height by several centimeters. What? Shion unconsciously took a step back. He drew himself up and squared his shoulders as best he could in spite of the wall of books behind him. He had seen something flash in Nezumi's grey eyes with a savage, piercing glint. It was only for a fleeting instant, but he had not missed it. Forgive my foolish question, Nezumi said in an expressionless voice. At the same time, a set of fingers closed around Shion's throat. Have you killed anyone before? Nezumi's thumb slowly dug deeper into Shion's neck. Never, Shion said faintly. Of course I haven't. Nezumi's thin lip curled slightly in a cold smile. I would have figured. But keep this in mind. The wasp might kill its host in order to keep itself alive. But humans can kill each other for much smaller reasons than that. And you were almost killed by another human. I know, you liar. You don't know anything. I do know, Shion said angrily, clutching Nezumi's wrist. I know if I had been taken to the correctional facility as planned, I would have been made out to be the murderer in the wasp's place. At best, I would have gotten a life sentence. At worst, I would have been executed. He paused for a moment, then continued determinedly. The Bureau wanted to buy more time. They needed time to decode the truth about Yamase-san's cause of death, and by making me the subject, they wanted to file it away as a simple murder case for outside eyes. Am I right? Nezumi's fingers withdrew. The spot on Shion's neck burned where Nezumi's thumb had dug in. Good answer. Full marks, he said breezily. Then his tone dropped in mock seriousness. It seems this unbalanced young man tumbled from the ranks of the elite, engaged in this crime out of resentment for the city. He allegedly concocted a special chemical to use repeatedly in multiple criminal acts. Thanks to the efforts of the Security Bureau, however, this man has been put under arrest. We would like to assure the citizens of the city that they are perfectly safe. He was probably scripted somewhere along those lines. He broke off. What a ridiculous farce. I'm guessing your knowledge and history fit the role of a dangerous criminal perfectly. The city has full access to all the citizens' personal information, Shion answered. It was probably easy to find a person to fit the role they wanted. More like you were marked from the beginning. Huh? Ever since the day you helped me, the city has been marking you down as a cautionary suspect. They've been scrutinizing your daily life down to every minute detail, who you met with, what you talked about, what you ate. So I thought the city murder case was something the city devised to arrest you. I was wrong though, and we know that now. But why? For what purpose? Because you're not a loyal citizen, Nizumi replied as he toweled his hair off. His profile was delicately chiseled. It almost looked like an artificial creation. It was all too different from a face that had skin and blood coursing through it and carried bodily warmth, with swells and dimples of flesh or fat, the occasional eczema, a face that changed with joy, anger, grief, or mirth, shone with sweat, or stained with tears. This was no human face. It looked like a doll that had been crafted with utmost precision. But even so, Shion thought and clenched his fist. The wrist he had crossed minutes ago had been warm and throbbing with a steady pulse. You're spaced out again. Am I boring you? Huh? Of course not. I was just wondering what you meant by not loyal. Shion's face flushed, though he didn't know why. Nezumi sniffed dismissively. That city only expects people who pledge absolute loyalty to them. They don't allow people who resist, object, or retaliate. They make sure any foreign object is removed completely. That's how it's thrived up till now. And I'm the foreign object this time. You're more than foreign to them. Think about it. You housed a VC, you held suspicions against the city for manipulating information, and you saw the cruelty behind their facade. As a citizen, you failed the test. You're an unwanted candidate. The city was just waiting for the right opportunity to get rid of you. Hey, Nezumi said abruptly, tell me, what does the immune system do when a virus invades the human body? Huh? Shion was caught off guard. Well, first the natural killer cells, that's a type of lymphocyte, find the cells that have been infected with the virus and destroy them. Then the ribonuclease becomes active and suppress the spread of the virus. Next, that's enough, Nezumi interrupted. Jeez, I set you off explaining something and you don't know when to stop. That's why people get pissed off at you. You're the only one that seems to get irritated at me. Nezumi ignored him and gave a short, derisive laugh. So basically, to the city, you're a virus, and that's why they try to erase you. I'm a human. I won't be erased that easily. Nezumi sighed deeply in exasperation. It's easy for humans to kill other humans, you know. Shion clenched his fists tightly again. But they can save people too. What? You've saved me, Nezumi, he said earnestly. Parasite wasps don't help each other out, but people can save other people. Am I wrong? Nezumi smiled briefly and his gaze slid away from Shion. You're as stupid as they come. Hopeless. Where did you think of that sickening cliche? I told you I'm only repaying my debt. And I told you you've already paid enough. How generous of you to have such low estimations of my debt, said Nezumi sarcastically. Then you must have had pretty high estimations. Nezumi let out a long breath and looked up at the ceiling. He bit his lip in silence as if to grope for the right words. The mice gathered around his feet. You don't understand, he said momentarily. No amount of words would probably make you understand. That day, 4 years ago, I'd mostly given up. Giving up means the end of you. I knew that, but there was no way anyone would help me or lend a hand. That's what I honestly thought. I couldn't ask for help. I had nowhere to run. I snuck into Kronos so tired I couldn't move, and I thought about how it was only a matter of time until I was caught. He paused, then spoke quietly. I felt so humiliated. I wondered if the whole reason I'd been born was just to die in humiliation like this. Don't laugh. Shion would never have been able to. The sounds of that night 4 years ago were echoing in his ears. The sound of the wind, the trees, and the whipping rain meshed and undulated, rising vivid and sharp in his mind. And amidst the din and darkness, a sobbing wet boy was curled up on the floor. And then the window opened. You threw it open wide, didn't you? And then you spread your arms open. Yeah, I remember. I felt really restless and I wanted to scream. To me, it looked like you were calling, beckoning for me to come in. I thought this was unbelievable. And it was happening right this moment. And you even left the window open when you ducked back in. I was gonna turn off the atmosphere control system. I don't care for what reason. The window you recklessly left open was my stroke of luck. And the fact that you didn't call the security bureau on me, but instead treated my wound and even gave me food was another miracle. I found out for the first time that things like this could happen, that a helping hand could be extended miraculously like that. You were the first one that taught me. Like all of these, Nezumi slowly looked around his room. These thousands of stories here, you taught me that sometimes we encounter the most unexpected things. And that's why I was able to survive. He lapsed into momentary silence. So you're right. There are times when people are saved by other people, and you're the one who taught me that. You were the only one that taught me that. The debt I owe for that is high, unfortunately for me. Nezumi's voice was so quiet it was almost a murmur, but it was deep and clear and rang presently in Shion's ears. So that's what it was, Shion thought, and spread his fingers as he looked at his palm. That night, when he threw the window open with his hands, he had called in a miracle along with the wind. Don't get too carried away, said Nizumi, his words quickly turning brusque. I'm giving you the guest treatment because I owe you. If you get carried away and start acting cocky, I'm gonna kick you out. Fine by me, said Shion mildly. I don't know if you'll take my word for it, but I'm not the type to get carried away too easily. But how did you find out I was in danger? He asked curiously. It's not like you were keeping constant watch over me these 4 years, right? Nezumi plucked up a grey mouse and held it out at Shion. It was the smallest among all the mice. Take a close look. Shion held the mouse in his palm and brought it close to his face. Is this a robot? Pretty well made, isn't it? It has a built in set of sensors. This thing is small enough that it can slip through the city's surveillance net and move around quite a bit. Depends on the area, though. Did you make this? Well, yeah, he said casually. While I was away from number six, this guy was the one sending me data about you. Shion lightly closed his fingers around the mouse in his hand. It had none of the warmth and softness that was characteristic of living things. Conversely, he scooped up one of the mice scurrying about his feet and held it in his palm too. This one had a faint but definite warmth and pulse. I didn't know when or how the city was planning to get rid of you, Nezumi continued. You're smart and young. You still had plenty of usage value. I couldn't imagine that they would kick you out so easily. I figured once they discovered how useful you could be, they'd take full advantage of it. Writing you up as a murderer was probably a piece of cake for them. You were their scapegoat. He sneered. They were keeping you enclosed in a corral until the ceremonial day when they would drag you out in front of everyone and make a flashy show of chopping your head off. So I've gone from being a virus to a goat, huh? Not much of an improvement. Hey, goats are cute. More lovable than you, anyway. I appreciate the compliment, said Shion unamusedly. So, this little guy sensed the change going on around me and came to notify you. Yep. It started that day when the man died of unnatural causes at the park where you worked. After that, the Bureau started stepping up their surveillance on you. And like adding icing to the cake, your coworker got killed too. It was the perfect opportunity to put you under arrest. Surveillance. I didn't even know I was being watched. They do it so you don't notice. Once you do, it's too late. That's scary. You're noticing now? Nezumi sniffed in derision. Shion raked his bangs up. He was confused about what had happened, what was about to happen, and what he was supposed to do from now on. He knew almost nothing, and it was terrifying not to know. But there was one idea, although it was a mere speculation that had sparked in Shion's mind. Nezumi, hmm? Could it be the park? The what? The forest park in the center of the city, my workplace. Could that be where the parasite wasp originated? Why? Said Nezumi. That park is right in the middle of the city. It might be a forest, but it's still artificial. All the wildlife is managed and controlled by the city. If a parasite wasp sprung out of nowhere, they'd notice. That's true, but out of all the places in the city, the park would be the most adequate environment for a new species to appear. And all the victims so far, including me, were in the park when it happened. Of course, Shion hesitated. I don't know if there's been casualties anywhere else, but I think part of the reason why the city suspected me was because the incidents were concentrated in that location. But if that's the case, that monster must have been born there somehow without being noticed by the control systems. It's plausible, right? And what's more, the park is where lots of people gather. No shortage of hosts, said Nezumi grimly. It was a park that was beautifully and conveniently crafted for the citizens. If a species that preyed on humans actually did inhabit it, then, well, spring, Shion murmured. Spring? Nezumi echoed in question. Once winter comes, those wasps will cease activity as they enter a dormant stage. The eggs that have already been laid will probably pass the winter as they are inside people's bodies. Yeah, and when spring comes, they'll be able to resume activity as an imago. Then they'll hatch all at once. In a season abundant with sunlight and flower blossoms, a mass of black wasps would simultaneously break out of people's bodies to take flight. How many would they be? How many people would be sacrificed? We have to do something. And how are you gonna do something about it? Replied Nezami bluntly. Don't even think about going back to the city. You'll be killed. You're an amateur. You can't pull any fancy tricks like slipping past surveillance 10 to 1 as soon as you step foot inside the city. You'll be shot dead. We don't have a trump card to pull out. Actually, I think we might. Nezumi narrowed his eyes. I survived that wasp attack. There's a chance that I've developed antibodies that resist the toxin. If I have, then it'll be possible to make a serum out of my blood. Nezumi shot an appalled look at Shion and hunched his shoulders exaggeratedly. And then what are you gonna do? Go waltzing into the city's health bureau and say, please check my blood, and if you like, please make a serum out of it. That's idiotic. They'll probably suck all your blood out and throw you in the trash with the rest of their organic garbage. Sure, what you're saying is impressive, but are you prepared to risk losing your life for these people? I don't want to die. Then don't think about useless things. Whether you have antibodies or not, once you're caught, you're gonna get killed anyway. It's just a matter of how soon or how late. Then what should I do? Don't do anything. Just leave them to fend for themselves. Xion lifted his face. Leave them? He asked quietly. Yeah, what a magnificent stage it'll be, Nezumi sneered. You can watch the holy city crumble into ruin, glowing in the light of spring. You'll have the best seats in the house. Nezumi! Xion raised his voice sharply. Whoa, don't go dumping water on me again. Are you under the impression that the West Block is safe from this? He said incredulously. We're human beings, the same as them. There's no knowing when the moths might attack us too. Nezumi fell silent. A crooked smile played on his lips. We're not the same. What? The people in the city sure don't see the residents of the West Block as the same human beings. You still don't know what kind of place this is, do you? This is the holy city's garbage dump. Number 6 has thrived by throwing everything it doesn't want out here. You should take a good look and see for yourself. Nezumi, this is just my hunch, but listen, he continued. That monster is probably only going to choose residents of number 6 to be its host. The people who have pushed everything dirty into the hands of others to live in that perfectly hygienic environment, well nourished and in excellent health. Mr. Monster has gourmet tastes. How can you be so sure? I have no clue about the biology of insects, Shion, but I'm probably right in guessing that any bee, wasp, ant, or grasshopper will appear in places where there's most food. In terms of population density, we're much higher than the city. But do you see any signs of the monster here? No. Which means that there are simply no prey, no hosts here, right? Shion was at a loss for words. His thoughts were becoming tangled, and there was a dull pain throbbing in his back of his head. Nezumi's hand touched his cheek. Sorry, he said softly. I didn't mean to give you a hard time. I forgot. You're from the other side of the wall. The inside. I don't understand what you mean by inside and outside. Of course you wouldn't, Nezumi said gently. That's normal. You guys have probably never tried to understand what was going on outside your walls, have you? You probably weren't even curious about it. Oblivious, arrogant, blissful people. But you, poor thing, he murmured, you've fallen off that pedestal. Which means I can no longer be oblivious, arrogant, or blissful anymore. Is that what you want to say? Shion let his gaze speak for him as he looked Nezumi in the eye. If arrogance is knowing nothing and never having tried to know, and if my blissful life until now has been built upon this arrogance, then sure, I don't mind throwing everything away. Falling off my pedestal would be the best thing that could have happened to me. Nezumi, he said steadily, hmm? I want to know the truth. I want to know what's real, what's happening to this world I'm living in. I want to see its true face. Nezumi hunched his shoulders and flashed him a wry smile. Such youthful words. We're the same age. I have more experience than you. Geez, I don't know who else would rattle off a line as embarrassing as I want to know the truth. Except Hamlet, maybe. Who's that? A prince of Denmark. I think you should balance out that knowledge bias before working on the truth. You really know next to nothing about classics, huh? Well, I've never needed them before, frowned Shion. The arts weren't encouraged much, so Nezumi reached into the shelves and pulled out two books. If what you're saying is true, then once winter comes, the commotion will die down, which means we have a moratorium until spring. Probably. Then there's no need to get worked up, he said airily. Nothing will come of it. So until you recover and you're well enough to move around, you can read him these. Him? A brown mouse scurried up into Shion's knee and stood on its hind legs. He loves Macbeth. The other is Faust. Ever heard of it? No. Nezumi grimaced and heaved an exaggerated sigh. If feeling prompt not, if it doth not flow, fresh from the spirit's depths, with strong control, swaying to rapture every listener's soul, idle your toil, the chase you may forego, is how it goes. You should give your brain a break and work on training your soul. Your mama used to read to you, right? Yeah. The mouse squeaked incessantly. Oh, right. Speaking of mama, I have a message from yours. I almost forgot. Huh? A faint color rose in Nezumi's cheeks as he obstinately turned aside. Well, since you managed not to die, I figured it wouldn't hurt to tell your mother that you're over here now. You went to see my mother? Not me, he said brusquely. I stayed in the underground tunnel. This guy, the brown mouse, tilted its head to one side. He went for me, with the note in his mouth. One of the oldest tricks in the book, but surprisingly, it got past surveillance without being noticed. Thank you. Stop that, Nezumi said, pulling a face. Don't give me that teary eyed look. Aren't you embarrassed at all? I was talking to this little mouse. Oh, well then. Shion really was grateful. Now that he knew how difficult it was to get past the wall, he felt grateful from the bottom of his heart that Nezumi had taken the same risk again just to deliver the message to his mother. So, this is what it means to gain knowledge. Your mother's got some guts. Nezumi remarked. She managed to give me a reply without getting caught. Nezumi tossed him a rolled up piece of paper that was about half the size of his finger. There was a message hastily scribbled on it that he could barely read. Armed LK 3000. Batch BLDG 3F. Not sure. Okay. What does this mean? He and Nezumi looked at each other in bewilderment. It's a letter that your mama wrote to her beloved son, said Nezumi. Don't you have any clue what it might be about? Not really, replied Shion doubtfully. K probably stands for her first name, but this, not sure. It's probably an address. Not that building numbers would do any good here. Latch building, huh? I guess I'll look into it. So that must mean my mother knows someone who lives in the West Block. It was a surprise to him. He had never heard Karan utter a single word about anyone who lived here. Nezumi snapped his fingers smartly. Oh, I know. Huh? Maybe he's your dad. Fat chance, retorted Shion. Look who's had one too many stories to read. Aren't you embarrassed at all? Nezumi in disappointment. You're getting better at your comebacks. But, well, I guess you're right. It is your typical script for a cheap melodrama. A father and son reunite in tears after 16 years of estrangement. Nezumi's voice turned deep and burly. I've missed you, son. Me too, father. She unbounded into Nezumi's widespread arms. They circled around his back. He was warm. For an instant, the frigid touch of Yamase's dead body flashed back in his mind. But it was this warmth here, not that coldness, that he wanted to remember. And Shion vowed never to forget the heat of the body that was in his arms. He wished all beings, himself included, could continue to be living beings. He didn't want his life unfairly wrenched away from him. He could feel it, the pleasure of living, breathing and possessing a body of warm flesh, soaked into the depths of his core. Nezumi gently detached himself. You're getting better at picking up your cues, he said approvingly. I know. I've come pretty far in a short time, haven't I? Quite an excellent pupil. Shall we go then? Where? Outside. Darkness had fallen outside. Here in the West Block, night and complete darkness seemed synonymous. A chill wind nipped at Shion's skin. Look, Nezumi pointed. Number 6 was carved out in the darkness, bathed in light as it glowed in the distance. It's always shining like that, morning, day, and night. Pretty, isn't it? Yeah, but where you're going to be living on from now on is here. The land was sunken in darkness, with a sparse scattering of lights here and there. They burned forlornly and made the surrounding dark look even more inky black. The clouds above broke, and the moon peeked out. It was a crescent moon. A thin sliver, almost like a clipped nail, floated in the empty sky. Nezumi crouched down to pick something up. Look at this. It was a dead wasp. This looks like just a regular paper wasp. You were right. It looks like the season for wasp activity is over. By springtime, Shion trailed off. It was possible that the city would hold out somehow until spring. It gave him a few months' grace period until the fatal judgment would fall. If you're serious about fighting the parasite wasps, I won't get in your way, Nezumi said. But if that means helping number 6, I'm backing out. Do you have a grudge against number 6? There was no answer. The wind blew stronger, the canopies above creaked and rustled as they swayed in the darkness. Shion. Hmm? That city where you were born and raised in, that's the biggest parasite. Huh? It latches onto the host, sucks out all of its nutrients, and devours it whole. That's the kind of city it is. Parasite city. Do you understand what I'm saying? No? You'll find out soon. You said you wanted to know the truth, but once you know, you'll never be able to go back. I would prepare myself if I were you. I've already come too far to back away now, wouldn't you think? I guess so. Nezumi's quiet laughter carried on the wind. His voice was dry and hollow, as if to compliment it. If you find out the truth and still want to protect number 6, then. In the darkness, Nezumi's face turned to his. Shion could feel his gaze. He could almost see the gray of his eyes just as vividly. Then you are my enemy too. Boy, it's chilly out here. Let's head back in. Nezumi's tone was light. It was as if nothing had happened. He turned his back to Shion and began whistling as he descended the stairs. Nezumi, the whistling stopped. You haven't told me your name yet. Nezumi it is, and Nezumi it shall be. Good enough. But it doesn't suit you, and it was a promise. You said you'd tell me your name if I survived. There was a soft laugh, which quickly turned into whistling again. The door closed, and a silence settled over the darkness. Shion stood alone, rooted to the spot. The wind caressed his white hair. He could hear a dog barking somewhere in the distance. He gazed up at the city that bejeweled itself in light. The parasite city. The city whose name Nezumi had spat with disgust was shimmering and beautiful. Shion averted his eyes from the light and took a deep breath. Then he descended slowly down the steps to the room below.